Live when I said that. Okay,
Now
fine.
we're like,
So, welcome once again to our next episode of Gravitas Expert Speak. Today's topic is about why managers and leaders should redefine their role as a coach. Really important one. And the only thing that I'm going to reveal to you in this small snippet here is that our environment has changed, the way the organizations functions that has changed, employer expectations, they have changed, but more or less the way that we lead as managers and leaders, that has not changed very much. So I'm going to be in conversation with none other than Utkarsh Narang, the life coach and founder of Ignited Neurons, who has been there on our show earlier as well. But this is such an important topic, and I thought I would like to invite him once again. So welcome to the show, Utkarsh. Once again, thank you very much for coming here.
absolutely. It's always a pleasure, Rajiv, to be speaking with you and to speaking to our audience. And as you were saying, it just occurred to me that's a beautiful thought that how so much has changed and evolved over the last few years and decades in terms of how the environment is operating. But our styles of leadership are still evolving, and they need kind of the transition that we're looking for. And I think today's conversation will be insightful for our viewers on how they can learn to be more coach-like as
Mhm.
they manage their teams and their organizations. So looking forward to it.
Wonderful. So let me just jump into it and ask you the first question. Why not any other style? Why more coach like?
Yeah, yeah. Rajiv, let me reflect then back to the previous decades, so to say, that how we've always had a more traditional command and control kind of a managerial style where it's like the manager knows it all. The manager is someone who has the higher authority. The manager is someone who should be leading us from the front, and we all need to kind of listen to them, to learn from them, and to grow because what they're sharing is the truth, so to say. And I think that traditional model of leadership has evolved a lot over the last few years, and I think it's time as more and more generation gaps are being created, more and more millennials are coming into the workspace in the
Yeah.
conversation. I think they're turning out to be a lot smarter, and the way the technologies are also shifting. I think it's time where we all kind of create not a democracy of sorts, but where
Right.
all of our voices are equally heard, where all of our
Right.
voices get enough weightage, where it is okay for someone who's maybe a little junior in the organization, but if they have a beautiful sparking idea, then why not take that up? And that is why, Rajiv, I think managers, we need to kind of evolve our ways of work as well, where we
Right.
should not be going into the room as know-it-alls, but
Hmm.
still open to learning, still open to new ideas that come from different people. And we'll speak more about this, but this term advice monster keeps coming back
Hmm.
to my mind, and how we need to kind of curtail that advice monster to make sure that we're just doing justice to the
Right.
collective wisdom in the room, so to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that has changed over a period of time is that uh, things have been changing very, very fast, and it's very difficult for any one person to know everything. And
Yeah,
traditionally, the role of the manager has been of somebody who knows what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and how much it needs to be done. I mean,
yeah.
there was a famous quote from Mr. Ford. He said
Mm.
that he needs only two hands to accomplish the task. Unfortunately, it comes attached with a brain. And managers have always taken that mental that, I don't need any thinking. I just
Yeah,
want you to do certain things. But
yeah,
obviously, as the organizations have gone flatter, those people in the front line, they have a finger on the pulse of what is changing. And unless and until we were to give credit to those people and ask them about what they are seeing, it's there is a huge risk of managers not knowing what needs to be done, and in our own old wisdom of that I'm supposed to know everything, and that's why I'm supposed to be directing them. That can be a big challenge or a big risk for our position as a manager, right? So
absolutely.
yeah, and one other thing is, yes, millennials, of course, I mean, they are a different, their expectations from how they want to work in an organization is also very, very
Correct,
different here.
correct.
So So the next question that begs to be answered is, if at all I have to be as a coach, what exactly does a coach do? So, I mean, if I have to model my behavior to that of
Yeah,
a coach, what does a
yeah.
manager do? I mean, sorry, a coach do?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. Let me use an example from sports maybe first, and then I'll share more about how coaches are important. I keep reflecting upon teams like Manchester United or teams like Los Angeles Lakers in basketball, and
Right,
how they were all phenomenal bunch of players who were doing great, but they still had that coach, Phil Jackson for LA Lakers and Sir Alex Ferguson for Manchester United. And one could argue that maybe Ferguson was not a better football player than a Ronaldo or a Wayne Rooney, or Lakers. Phil Jackson is not a better player from Kobe Bryant or Shaquille O'Neal. But ultimately, those coaches were guiding those players to bring out the best from them. And I think
right,
that is the role of a coach. That coach is not someone who's going to kind of come in and give you advice and mentor you and have a therapy session. That's not the role of a coach. Coaching is
right,
a very different stream of actions that one takes. For
right.
us, I think we need to understand that coaching is a more solution focused. It is more inquiry based, where there are powerful questions being thrown at an individual to make them reflect and bring out the best answers on their own. Because
Mm,
Rajiv, as we say that as coaches, we're not coaching the person, the problem per se. We're coaching the
right.
person, and so the
Mm,
person can evolve to bring out different solutions. The person can evolve to have different beautiful thoughts be portrayed to the outside world, which I
right.
think is the role of the coach to bring out. And this another saying that comes to mind, that coaching is like product development,
Hmm.
where you, the individual who's going through that coaching experience, is the
Mm,
product. And so that's something I read in Fast Company. So I think that's a really powerful quote, that if you want to
right,
develop
right,
yourself, if you want to evolve yourself from being a MVP to an amazing player out there, then I think coaching is the way to go. And
mm,
just want to add one more thought, that coaches, they do nudge you at the right time, but ultimately it's more of those questions that are going to transform your life. And one of my
right.
mentors once told me, when Rajiv, we started kind of I personally started my coaching journey, that Utkarsh, the kind of questions that you'll ask yourself will decide the quality of the life that you will have. And I think that was very provocative for
Questions, the quality of your questions will decide the quality of your life. Wow. I
absolutely,
think, yeah, I think
absolutely.
I had heard this thing from Tony Robbins also, that he says that,
Oh, lovely.
questions are the, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, so that's the
So,
role of the coach. That's how one needs to evolve their own leadership methodology, evolve their
right.
own managerial styles to become more coach like. I think.
Right. So what I'm hearing here is that a coach does not necessarily need to be as good as the player. I mean, if I were to take that analogy of sports, he does
Correct.
not need to be, because I mean, like we say that, if you are an individual contributor, you're working in the system. But if you are a leader or a manager, you're working on the system, right? You're working on the
Beautiful.
system. So the coach
Yeah.
also does something like that. And I think one of the things that I know of it is that anything what we do, it starts of the first manifestation. Dr. Stephen Covey talks about the first
Yeah.
manifestation takes place in your head, and
Yeah.
whatever that you are thinking, that's what you become. And I
Yeah.
think the coach's role is more to ask questions and get people to go inside, reflect on what their thought process is,
Yeah.
and if those are the thought processes, then it's going to produce certain kind of uh, answers or behaviors. But if those questions being asked by the coach can change the train of thought, your behavior and at the same time your way of working can change. Is
Absolutely.
that something you will agree
Spot
with
on.
me?
Spot
Right,
on,
right.
Matthew.
Yeah. Okay, great. Wonderful. Great. So that's obviously a skill, something that needs to be kind of developed. And I'm sure there is something to it, because uh, so far, when we grow as a leader or manager, I mean, we have been rewarded for the fact that we can get things done. We are rewarded for solving problems. We are rewarded for giving directions to people. And that is all a function of telling, as far as
Correct.
communication is concerned. Do this, do that, don't do this, do that, right?
Yeah.
Giving the advice is concerned.
Yeah.
How do I shift? What is the what is the play where you are suddenly asking me to ask questions rather than to uh, tell things? Isn't
Yeah.
that a little challenging for any manager or leader, anyone for that matter, to?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Change the
That
perspective.
you bring up a very powerful thought, Rajiv. And I would really recommend our listeners to also go back and listen to this TED talk by Michael Bangesteiner. It's called The Advice Monster. If they search for it, they'll get it. I think what he is saying there is, and what Rajiv you and I are speaking about is also that it's universal for
Yeah.
us to start giving advice because we
Mm,
feel that my idea, it's the best idea out there. My advice is going to transform your life, and that's
correct.
one of the biggest cognitive biases that we can kind of operate with, because
Right.
as soon as we feel that my idea is the best and that's what you need, we don't even know what the other person is going through. We don't even know what are the different parties involved. We don't even understand the project fully, and I'm not right now talking on like a zoomed out lens. And
Mm,
how can then we move into a position of advising them? And so I think it's a mindset shift, Raji, that one
right.
needs to go through, where instead of as soon as you start talking, in my head I'm just nodding and saying yes and giving the
Mm,
filler words. Instead of doing that, I'm actually paying attention to what you're saying, and my
right.
innate reaction from moving from that, oh, let me advise you and make your life easy, and because I know the best for you, let me do that. Instead of that, let me ask you what you're going through, and that's
Right.
where the coaching mindset comes in. You know,
Right. Right.
one example that I would love to give here, and
Sure.
people who know me would know that I use a lot of examples from my personal life as well. So my son the other day, he's 11, and I was waking him up for school, and then I went into his room and I said, "Why don't you go and take a bath?" And he's like, "Dad, you're always guiding me or nudging me to do something instead of just being there." I'm like, okay, I'm sorry about that. And so he's like, you ask me a question if you want to. And so he, in that moment, made me realize that I am trying to, in a way, mold their lives. So if I
Yeah.
were to be a manager to my sons, then I'm trying to advise them to do this and to do that and to do XYZ. Whereas I should say that it's 7 o'clock right now, you have to be at school at 7:30. So what would be the next best step?
Mm,
Something of that sort might be more empowering for the other person, and I think
right.
that's what we as managers also need to start to do. So that's the first shift that needs to happen, that move
Right.
away from the advice monster to maybe asking questions.
Correct, correct, correct. Yeah, I also realized when you were using the example of your son,
Hmm.
in somebody just mentioned and said, you know what, asking question always will get you much better response rather than directing people. I mean, if I were to say, kind of pass me that glass of water,
Yeah,
you might have one reaction to it. But then if I were to say, would you like to pass me that glass of water, it'll have a
yeah,
completely different reaction. Why? Because when you ask a question, the mental model is that I have a choice. I can either do it or I do not do it. And people
yeah,
like to be in control. They want to feel that sense of control that I have a choice, right?
yeah,
So it's important. But unfortunately, what happens is that because of our own experiences and what has made us successful, we have this image in our head that this is what will be successful and I really want to help this person. So our intention is right, but it's
yeah,
almost like saying, said Rajiv, I'm not sure why I'm not able to see clearly. Just said, really? Okay, fine. You know what? These glasses, they help me to see clearly when I was not able to see clearly. Why don't you take my glasses and uh,
yeah,
because it'll
yeah.
help you also. But
what a
that is
what a
ludicrous.
powerful
My glasses will definitely, yeah. So whatever worked for you does not necessarily mean that it will work
message.
for the other person also. And it's
Absolutely.
important for us to be able to see exactly what the challenge is. We
Yeah,
sometimes don't understand the problem before we start to shoot the answers.
yeah,
Brilliant. I
yeah,
think I'm a wonderful discussion here on this one. Okay, so fine. If I have to be more like a coach, then in that sense, you're saying that we need to be able to curtail our advice or the
yeah.
advice monster and be more in the asking mode of communication. Is that correct?
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
So,
So ask
right.
before you start to tell.
Right. Okay. So, what are some of the behaviors? I mean, asking is one thing, but if you were to give me like a step by step process or some framework that I can start to practice, what are some of
Absolutely.
the behaviors do you think a coach demonstrates in which it is more of a probing kind of an approach?
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great next step to our conversation. And I loved your metaphor of the glass. I think I'm going to use that because my glasses will not work for you and yours will not work for me. So Love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, in terms of behaviors, Raju, I think I'm happy to give five today to our listeners to see
Mhm.
how they start to kind of play with those, and then maybe we'll evolve that further in future conversations. The
Sure.
first one is just to start to question. I think questioning is a very powerful, and we have spent quite some time to discuss why questions are so important. The second thing is curiosity. I think what we do, and that'll curiosity will in a way tame your advice monster also and help you question also. Where you move in
Mm.
with a mindset where I'm saying that, oh, I don't know all, but I'm happy and curious to learn from you. And so, how can you express this attribute of curiosity in your behaviors? And we can speak more about each one of them. But let me first go through the list for our listeners. So once you're starting to be more curious, I think the next step for you as a manager who's being a coach is to support your team. That you have to make sure that they understand that you're fully there, you're kind of rooting for them, and you want them to evolve into their best selves. So how can you
Mm.
stay on the outside and provide support to them? The
Right.
fourth and the most important one of the most important ones is to discover. Because see, sometimes as managers, as whoever we are interacting with the other person, we are very quick to put a label. We are very quick to judge the other person, that, oh, he's or she is speaking like that, this must be the kind of person that this person is. Instead of
Right.
that, let's move to saying that within this person lies infinite potential. Within this person is the ability to be a creator, to be great at logic, be great at data. And so let me find out what will give them the most value, and let me discover that for them, with them, and then push the throttle on that aspect. So the fourth one would be discover. And the
Right.
final one, Rajiv, which I think is the most important skill in life, not even like in work life or personal life, but we're not still there yet on it, is
Uh-huh.
listening. That how can you listen to the other person with all your presence, all your love, all your respect, because you
Mm.
don't want to be kind of having the filters of bias. You don't want to be in your own zone while you're listening to someone else. You don't want to be like artificially nodding and responding, but in your
Right.
heart you're just kind of waiting for them to stop. So the five behaviors, to summarize, that we would want people to learn as managers become coaches, is to question and tame their advice monster, is
Mhm.
to be curious for the position of the other person,
Right.
is to third one would be to support them, fourth would be to discover what is the best thing that they can be kind of bringing their a game to work, and then the fifth one would be to listen with all your heart and all your presence.
Right, right, right. So great. Curiosity, have the sense of curiosity, start questioning. So ask questions, listen to them, and be able to send out the signals or create that sense of safety or build that trust that they should feel comfortable in sharing uh, uh, truthfully or openly of what they are thinking about. Unless and until we create that place of trust, then people will give you more of doctored answers. It's not going to either help you or the other person, correct? And then
Absolutely.
you keep the sense of discovery as such. So if I'm
Yeah.
listening and I'm holding my judgment, then I go into this conversation is like, what more can I discover about it? What are some of the things that I can learn more about this person before even I can, before even I start to share with them what is it that can help them? Is that correct? Yeah, so I'm
Absolutely.
actually, yeah, so I'm looking at this from the lens of the anatomy of behavior. So you said five behaviors. So if behaviors, they are made of mindset, skill sets, and tool sets, right? So
Yeah.
mindset is the sense of what is the self talk that we are having. Skill set is about those learned behaviors that we have practiced to act more like a coach. And tool sets are basically a set of steps,
Yeah.
essentially repeatable formats which can
Yeah.
produce the same results again and again. So here I'm seeing that curiosity and building trust will be more in terms of a mindset, and listening, your ability to question, and the discovery will be more in terms of uh, uh, skill sets. Is that correct, Utkarsh?
I would agree with that, and I think you bring a very simple framework to our conversation today, where you have to start to have this mindset, which
Mhm.
is operating in a coach like mindset, and then have these skills also that you can learn. And it's a journey, Rajiv, that you're not going to be adept at being a coach like and having this coaching mindset from day one, but it is something that you're ready to role model, and it is
Right.
something that you're ready to explore each day. And I think that's going to be the key strength here for us, that
Right.
where we'll be open to learning, we'll be
Right.
open to failing also at times, maybe where the advice monster will come up, and where we will stop with the question and we'll just maybe share that just do this, and we're done. But ultimately, the hope here is that gradually the behavior can shift to this other spectrum that we are speaking about, where you are
Right.
more a coach like than just a traditional manager
Interesting.
of
Great.
sorts.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So I actually, I'm quite tempted to launch into another part of it is about the framework. Like I said, what are a step-by-step process for us to practice to have a more coach-like conversation? But I'm sure, I think we'll probably leave that for some other, because this will require a lot more
Yeah,
time for us to work on that. So at the same time, what I would like to find out from you is there is this misconception, or people feel that the minute you talk about coaching, people think, oh my God, that means to say that I have to spend about an hour, 2 hour with each one of my team members one on one. I've got a team of about 6 to 7 people. And if I have to do that regularly, that's a huge commitment of time,
yeah,
right? How do you overcome that? What exactly are some of the thoughts
yeah.
on that part of it? Because that's going to be a big non-starter for many managers who are so time starved at this moment.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question that you bring up, Rajiv, and I think it's going to be on the mind of many people, because again, the assumption here is that coaching has to be a 1 hour conversation, which is a complete misconception. It would be great to have that kind of development focus coaching conversation with your people, but that's not always possible. So the hope that the nudge that you and I are bringing here is that can you be more coach like in your daily conversations, so that coaching does not need to be like a 1 hour conversation, but could be done in 2 minutes, in 5 minutes, in maybe 15 minutes that you have. And if I were to give you an example, suppose as a team of 5 people and you're the manager, you're going through a project where you've kind of reached a stalemate and you don't know what to do. So the team is trying to bring up the best solution, and one person comes up to you and says, Utkash, I want to do this, and uh, Utkash, I don't know what to do now. Like, we are
Right.
completely lost. We as a team don't have anything to do. You tell us what is to be done. And you pause. As a manager, you want to give your best solution to them, telling them, like, do this, we did this for the last client, we did this, and this will work, and this will work. Instead of doing that, you just pause in that moment. And from
Mm.
your innate behavior of advising, why don't you move to questioning? And you ask them, so and so, what is the biggest challenge that you have here? And they might say that, oh, let me think about it, I didn't fully think about it. And they'll take a minute and think about that and maybe have an answer for you. That in that moment is a coaching moment, where
Right.
instead of letting your advice monster come out, you were a coach to that person. And so now
Right.
in that moment, that person will ponder upon it, will think, will give it a minute, and maybe will share with you that this is what I'm going through, and I think the client has XYZ problem. And that's where you pause again. Instead of again going back to your advice monster, you again ask, what else could be done here? And you pause again. And you let them come up with the solution, where you're just nudging them in the right direction with the question that you can ask. So it'll take 5 minutes. And it does not need like a 1 hour dedicated, come into my room kind of long conversation on coaching. And all your
Right.
team in a way gets coached together with that kind of mindset.
Brilliant. So you're saying that one is a coaching session and another one is a coach like conversation. So the
Absolutely.
differentiator is that coaches who are full time into this, they probably will go and do a coaching session with people, and then it's fine for you to do a 1 to 2 hours of session with them. But if you were to take a more coach like attitude or coach like role, then every conversation can be a coaching session. And I think you demonstrated beautifully by saying that, instead of me giving the answer,
Yeah,
um, I'm actually making you think, of encouraging you to think for your own answer. Wow, this
absolutely.
is this is good. Right. So yeah, obviously this is definitely going to help your team members to not only develop their thinking skills, but
Yeah,
it will also help them to uh, you know, uh, become more self-reliant and autonomous. I mean, the
Absolutely.
more you continue to do that, the more they keep thinking about it, they will
Yeah.
build their confidence to be able to make their choices and then only come to you with a solution. Brilliant, wonderful. So
Absolutely.
now this is a good payoff for the team members, because they are developing their skills, becoming more independent, they're becoming more confident, and they are building their critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
What is the payoff for the manager? What do you think? I mean, because we need, we all need an incentive, correct? James Clear
Yeah.
talks about in Atomic Habits that unless and until there is a reward at the end of the rainbow, our
Yeah.
behaviors, they don't stick, they don't become habits. So what is something that you can tell that this is what, why is this important or relevant, or you know that's the incentive for you as a manager to get into more
Yeah.
coach life?
So what is in it for me? I think
Yeah,
this is
what's
a
in it
question
for
that
me? Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
each one of us is asking in every conversation, every interaction that we have. And reminds me of this Stephen Covey quote where he says that the best way to learn something is by teaching it. So
Teaching it.
when you as a manager are becoming more coach like, is going through like taming the advice monster, starting to question, being more curious, listening more, I think it does a few things for your own benefit. The first
Mm,
one, Rajiv, that comes to mind is your own awareness of yourself and of people around you goes up. And with
right,
that level of self-awareness that gradually evolves to a higher level, so to say, I think you'll be
right,
able to bring out your best in life and in leadership. The
right.
other thing that comes to mind is, Rajiv, just around your emotional intelligence, because coaching is a way where you're trying to be non-judgmental, where you're trying to question, where you're trying to tame your advice monster. So all the behaviors that we are speaking about, it in a way helps you manage your emotions really well. So that to
Mm,
me is like the second biggest takeaway that a manager can think of. The
right,
third is just your communication style, because in your whole communication style, and this is conversation that you have with yourself and the
right,
conversations you have with others, that
right.
all gets transformed to becoming more question based, to becoming more nudge friendly, to becoming more that, oh, I see the beautiful self in you and I'm going to be patient with you instead of being frustrated or disappointed or anything. So your behaviors kind of shift that way. And then there's this fourth aspect also comes, that the team becomes a stronger bonded unit in a way, because you
Right.
as a manager is leading them, is allowing them to thrive, you're empowering them as a manager, so the whole team does a lot of good work. Then trust based relationships get formed, and that's going to on all these four in a way will lead to hopefully a more fulfilled manager who's going to do his or her best for their own selves, their teams, and their organizations as well. So I think yeah, these five would be my takeaways for what is in it for a manager.
Brilliant, wonderful. So I think you have captured the whole essence of this. What is the benefit for a manager beautifully, and if I were to look at self-awareness, is something, emotional intelligence is something that you are able to do that, and you become a better communicator because of this, because you are allowing people to talk more, you are listening to them. So these things, and when you practice these behaviors and you are more emotionally intelligent and more socially aware of what kind of how to how to give space to people, you build a trust. You become trustworthy and you build a trusting environment. And connecting back to our last conversation that we had about building psychological safety, and that is
Yeah.
something that you are able to do that. So this is something that you can take away from here. And
Yeah.
it this prompts me to share this quote,
Hmm.
which said that what is that? The pursuit of a goal is important in not because what you get, but what you become in the bargain.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Right? Yeah.
Beautiful.
So isn't this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you actually were trying to kind of um, gain the skill sets of a coach, but in the bargain, you become a better individual, a better, not only a better manager or a leader, but a better individual. And that's
Absolutely.
the takeaway for the manager. That's why it is important for them to be
Spot on.
doing.
Spot on.
Brilliant.
Absolutely, I think, and just to add, Rajiv, I'll take a minute. I think we just have that much time. I think
Mm,
organizations need to make sure that they start to invest in it, because it's impossible for managers to evolve and learn this coaching mindset on their own. And I
right,
think that's the
right,
work that you and I do. And if there is anyone who's looking for that kind of work, it would be a joy to have managers become coach like, and the ripple effect it can have, the domino
right,
effect it can have on the organization and hopefully humanity. I think
right.
would be beautiful, Rajiv. So yeah, thank you,
Brilliant,
thank you.
wonderful. No, I'm quite excited about this, and it was a wonderful conversation again, like always. And if I were to sum it up, is that coach like, it's not about becoming a coach. It's about having a coach like conversation. It does not require you to do something extra. Whatever that you are doing, you just do it a little differently. And obviously, you said that it's not something that we can, it comes naturally for us because we've been conditioned to be more in the directive mode. So it requires people to be intentional and conscious about engaging in these behaviors. And obviously, one of the first places for you to be to accept that fact that I need to do this and then look for help. So
Yeah,
organizations can definitely help in this transformation by promoting this as a key skill for the managers to practice, right? Wonderful.
absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was again a great and very useful, value-adding conversation, Utkarsh.
Thank you.
And let's see what is it that we can talk about next when we come here in our next episode. So
Absolutely.
thanks a lot
Looking
for
forward to it.
coming. Thanks a lot for coming here, and have a nice day. Thank you very
You too,
much.
Rajiv. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. And I hope this was useful in case you're looking for some more insights into this or anything that you may want to learn more about. Do let us know, and we'll come back with more such content in our future episodes. You have a good day. Bye bye.